Hello everyone. In the last lecture, studied about the Python tutorial, right? So this was completed. We got a brief introduction of what is Python, what are its features, right? So we will be starting with the next topic now. And so these are the topics which are listed down. Here glossary is also present and you can go through this, but it will be better if you go to this after studying everything present here. Okay? So that is why we will start with this first point right now, which is called whetting your appetite. So the heading is very interesting, right? So waiting, if someone does not know the meaning, waiting means actually exciting, increasing or getting excited. Your appetite, appetite means basically hunger, right? So waiting your appetite means exciting your hunger of learning Python. Okay, so that means here such things are written. Here again, the features are elaborated in detail so that you get more interested and excited about learning this language. All right. So if you read it in the first para, what is said here that we do a lot of work on our computer, right? We perform various functions, right, in day-to-day life, that is search and replace over a large number of text files, renaming, rearranging. So these there are a lot of common tasks which we do every day, right? So the tasks are common but they are complicated to perform. Okay, so for that, we will definitely like to write a small custom database or specialized GUI application, right? Or simple game. So we will try to write such kind of modules and programs so that our all these works can be simplified, right? Automatically it can be done. After that, if let us say if you are a professional software developer or in future you are going to be a professional software developer, right? So then you will have to work with C, C++, Java libraries, right? Because these are very common languages used in almost all the softwares. Okay, so in that case, if you're working with these languages, you will have to write the program, compile them, you have to test them, again recompile. So this is a cycle which you have to do continuously, right? And this process is quite slow because repetitively you have to do this. Okay, so now perhaps you are writing a test suite for such a library and find writing the testing code a tedious task, right? So for testing your software or whatever functions and all you're writing, for testing that you have to write testing code also, which you find maybe a tedious task, right? A difficult and boring task it is, right? Okay. Or maybe you have written a program that could use an extension language, right? And you don't want to design and implement a whole new language for your application, right? So that also can happen, that whatever application or software you are building, for that such kind of functions are required in that, um, for which you don't have to write a new language, and you are using such a language which can easily be extended from, if you're writing in C, C++, that can easily be extended to some other languages also, right? So you want all these features when you are working with a software, right? Now, for doing all these things, Python is just the language for you, right? So if you're using Python, then all these works, whichever the complications which we discussed right now, all these things can be simplified. Okay, so the thing is that whatever complications are there, problems are there, it was not that earlier these problems were not solved, right? Earlier also solutions were there. Like for example, earlier you could write Unix shell script or Windows batch files for some of these tasks. Okay, whatever like task was there for searching, replacing, and other complicated tasks also. For that, earlier, what used to be written? Shell scripts and Windows batch files. These were used earlier, right? But the problem is that shell scripts are best at moving around files and changing text data, right? So Unix shell is good for all these things, but it is not well suited for GUI application. So this is the point where it was lacking, right? That for GUI application games, which are very heavily are having graphical things, right? So for that, it was not suitable. Okay, so got the issue. So that is how we switch to Python now. Okay. Also, you could write a C, C++, Java program, but it can take a lot of development time to get even a first draft program, right? So you can also think like this, that we can write some programs using C, C++ or Java, right? For solving all those problems, we can write programs for that, and it can do all our tasks. So that was also possible, but again, that used to take a lot of development time. Okay. So instead of that, if you look at Python, that Python is simple to use, okay, and it is available on all the operating system, okay, that is Windows, Mac OS, Unix, and these are the most common operating system used worldwide, right? So Python is compatible with all this, so it is having that benefit, right? And also using this, you can do all your jobs which we discussed right now. These things you can do very quickly. After that, also Python is very simple to use. We have already discussed it, okay? But the thing is that it is a real programming language, offering much more structure and support for large programs than shell scripts or batch files can offer. Okay, so I hope now your doubts will be clear, that if batch files also we could use, or shell scripts also, then what was the need of a new language? So this was the need of new language, that these things were not able to handle very large programs, but Python can do that. Okay. On the other hand, Python also offers much more error checking than C. Okay. And being a very high level language, it has high level data types, which which is built in, right? Such as flexible arrays and dictionaries. So about this I discussed in some previous lecture also, right? That it is having very high level language. Okay. Very high level language means what? That high level data structures and all are used. Okay. So if you have done programming in C, you might know that in that case, if you're using array, then you will have to fix the size of the array, right? Earlier only. But that is not always possible. During runtime, it can happen that you want to increase or decrease the size of the array, right? So these things are very flexible in Python. Very easily you can do that, right? Okay. Now, because of its more general data types, okay, Python is applicable to a much larger problem domain than awk or even Perl. So awk and Perl, these are also some programming languages. Okay, if you don't know about it, then these are also programming languages. So Python is better than that. In what case? In case that it is having more general data types as compared to what they have. Okay. And yet many things are at least as easy in Python as in those languages. So if you say that no, this thing is easy in Perl, then that same features and same easiness is there in Python also, along with added features like of general data types and all. So definitely people started shifting to this language. Okay. Now the thing is that Python allows you to split your program into modules. So this is again a very big advantage. In nowadays programming, modularity is something which is highly used, right? So modules means what? Basically that if you're having a very large program, you can break down that program into small chunks, right? Into small parts, and those separate parts you can develop, and then finally you can merge them, right? So that is how basically roughly you can understand modules right now. So Python allows to do that. That means entire program you can break down into modules, and those modules you can import in some other program, you can export to some other program, right? So all these things are possible, and that's how it becomes very beneficial. Okay. Okay. So that can be reused in other Python programs, as I said, that you can export and import those modules to other programs as well. It comes with uh, a large collection of standard modules that you can use as the basis of your programs. So you can make your own module also, and there are some standard modules also which are already present in the Python library. Okay, so even those you can use, like for example, one very common is math module, right? So if you import the math module, all the basic mathematical functions like finding sum, max, mean, average, all these things, for that ready-made functions you get, and you don't have to write the code for them, and you can just import it and use it. So that is how it saves your time. Okay. Now, some of these modules provide things like file, input output, system calls, sockets, and even interfaces to graphical user interface toolkits, right? So even these are some high level modules which when big softwares and all you're building, then you can use. So basically that Python is having module for everything. So that is why if you learn this one language, almost in everything you can work, right? So that is how you also get the flexibility. After that, Python is an interpreted language about which also I discussed in the previous lecture, right? That Python is having an interpreter. So what it does actually, it saves our time during program development, okay? Because here we don't need to compile anything. There is no compilation and linking is necessary. Everything is done automatically, okay? The interpreter can be used interactively, which makes it easy to experiment with feature of the language. Okay, to write throwaway programs or to test functions during bottom-up program development. So because of interpreter, we get all these benefits. Okay, like throwaway programs, we can write throwaway program means such kind of programs which are used for testing purpose and all. That means we write the program, we use it for some time, and then we discard it. So it is like throwing away the program, right? So such kind of programs and all we can write very easily because of the help of the interpreter. Okay, and it is also a handy disk calculator. Okay, so like that also it works. Now Python enables programs to be written compactly and readably. Okay, very compact it is, like means a large program which takes multiple lines of code in C++ or Java, that you can write in a very short manner, compact manner in Python. Okay, and also it is very readable, very simple, like it feels like you are reading English sentences only. So that is how it is very readable also. Programs written in Python are typically much shorter, as I said, as compared to these languages. Okay. Now, why it is shorter? What are the reasons? So those reasons are mentioned here. If you have done little bit also programming in C, C++ or Java, then you can understand these points very easily. And even if you don't, you can just skip it. Okay. So the first point is the high level data types allow you to express complex operations in a single statement, right? That means if one expression is there where strings also you're using, boolean also you're using, maybe integer also you're using, and it is getting stored in some kind of variable, right? So the whatever the end value it is generating, that can be stored in whatever variable you're using, right? Because dynamically the type can be changed, but these things are not possible in C++ and all, right? In a expression, if integer value is getting generated, then everything in that expression should be integer, and on the LHS also there should be such a variable which can store integer value only, right? So because of that, you will have to write multiple lines of code if some complex operation you are trying to perform, right? But you don't have to do that in Python, because in Python dynamically the type can be changed in a single expression only. So that is how the size becomes shorter. Okay. The next point is statement grouping is done by indentation instead of beginning and ending brackets, right? In all these languages, that is C, C++ or Java, right? Everywhere, whenever you write a block, maybe you're writing a loop or you're writing if else, or you're writing some method or function, always what we use always that curly brackets, right? Braces, that denotes the block. Okay, and by that only we also determine the indentation, the scope of the variables and everything, right? But those things are not there in Python. If you want to group a block of code, then just by indentation you can do it. Indentation means proper spacing. Okay, so by giving spaces, tabs and all, automatically the grouping will be done. So since here so many brackets are not used, because for bracket only we take an entire line, right? In a single line we just write bracket. So that is how also the line can be made shorter. Okay. After that, no variable or argument declarations are necessary, right? Because if you again see these languages, C++ and all, so in that what happens, that one line, first of all we only declare the variables, right, by writing the data type and all the variables. So that is the extra line, but such kind of things are not required in Python, because you don't have to declare any data type or something. You can directly start with writing the main operations. So These are the reasons why the Python codes are shorter as compared to C or C++. So, right? So these are the reasons you should know. You should be able to explain that why Python programs are shorter as compared to these languages. Okay. After that, the next feature which we have discussed earlier, which is again written in little bit detail, that is your Python is extensible, right? That means C, C++, and Python code, everything can be mixed together and we can make a hybrid kind of software, right? So if you know how to program in C, it is easy to add a new built-in function or module to the interpreter. Okay, so maybe you have written the program in C, right? But once some extra functionality you want to add, for which you want to write a separate module. Okay, either to perform critical operation at maximum speed or to link Python programs to libraries that may only be available in binary form. Okay, so there can be some reasons why C program you have written, but in that Python code you want to include, right? Because of various reasons, maybe the performance, maybe some speed related thing, or some library you want to include, right? So there can be multiple reasons why you want to include the Python code in the C program. Now, once you are really hooked, you can link the Python interpreter into an application which is written in C and use it as an extension or command language for that application. Understood? So here what is happening, if you have written any application which is in C, which is written in C, right? In that you can you can link the Python interpreter, and because interpreter is necessary to be included, right? Because Python module is there, so that particular module can be interpreted only. Okay, so you can include the interpreter, and so that Python module will be present here, or the library, and then uh, that whatever Python feature you are trying to include, that will get included, right? So do you understand? Here you have written one application which is in C, but you can also include Python codes in that. So of course, that is how Python is becoming extensible, right? So these are again all the overall features which are discussed here in detail. So I will recommend please read it by yourself once. And now if we see this, that how the language got this interesting name of Python, right? Um, so that the name has come from a BBC show which was having the name Monty Python's Flying Circus. Okay, so from this show only this Python word came. The developers kept this name. So that is the reason. Okay. So now I hope that you all are excited about Python because you got overall idea about the language and the benefits and the perks of the language. So I think now you're excited enough to learn the language in detail, right? So you will want to examine it in some more detail, right? So since the best way to learn a language is to use it, the tutorial invites you to play with the Python interpreter as you read, right? So now overall idea you got. So definitely now you will be excited to learn it more in detail, and that you can do only when you are actually writing the programs and codes and you are doing it by yourself, right? So for that, what is the first requirement? The first requirement is the Python interpreter, and that is why our very next topic is using the Python interpreter. Okay, so that we will be studying in the next lecture. So that's what is written here also. In the next chapter, the mechanics of using interpreter are explained. And so although it is a very ordinary information, but it is necessary for starting with Python programs. Okay. So this is today's lecture. I hope you got everything here. If you still have any doubt regarding this particular document, you can comment it down and I will try my best to help you. And then in the next chapter, we will study using the Python interpreter. Okay. So I'm ending the lecture here. Thank you.